Welcome to Competitive Paupercast, episode 17. With me is David
Hey guys.
and Dan.
Hey, Pauper Killer!
I didn't kill Pauper, it's not my fault.
No, that meant hi, Pauper guys in
Oh.
Swedish.
So they call guys killer in Swedish?
Yes. It's plural for guys in Swedish. It's killer. Killar.
That seems... wow.
Language. It's beautiful.
Something lost in translation. So, we have a pretty obvious topic to talk about this week, but...
What? Did anything happen?
Oh, no, nothing at all happened. But we have
Yeah,
some
that's
stuff we
exactly
got...
the issue.
So we're playing dailies today, right?
Yeah, we wish. No, but first we have to cover the initial bases. What have you guys been playing?
About a week ago, I started really working intensely on a Stompy list, and most of it is stuff I put in an article, or two actually, about this, I think we call it Resilient Stompy, and it had Tukatone, Thalid, Young Wolves, all the really resilient type creatures that your opponent, if they try to Edict you or Doomblade, you get additional value out of. So they're sort of like 2-for-1s all the time, even though the creatures are left over are really bad. And then the trick was to turn those into individual threats by putting Rancor on them and Bone Splitters, just maxing out on those, as opposed to pump spells. Yes, the tricks are great, and it's kind of a downside, but if you can turn a 1/1 Sapperling token into a 5/1, you've suddenly turned your leftover token into a real threat. And so I've been working on that, and then I really liked Moldervine Cloak. I decided I'd try that, because if you can ever get that on a 1/1 token, you've turned your 1/1 token into a Mirror Enforcer. Or if you have a 2/2, you've turned your token into something that passes the Flame Slash test that really only Doomblades, Edicts, and Fangren Marauder can stop. So I started tinkering around with Moldervine Cloak, added Chatter of the Squirrel to the deck, and I was doing pretty well with it. So I shipped it off to some people to get some feedback from, and I shipped it to Alex Ullman, Jay Siri, and Deluxekoff, and mostly because people just seemed very intrigued by what I was saying about the deck. And I'm a big community advocate, so if you ask for a list, I'll share what I'm working with. And they all gave me various advice back, but the advice that was the most interesting was actually Deluxekoff's, because instead of providing me with a critique, he actually provided me with a deck. And it's his... apparently he'd been working on a similar idea to me, taken in a slightly different direction. And so I picked up his deck and have pretty much not lost with it. And he was saying, that after I brought this up to him, he decided to try it again because it was sort of just like a thought experiment initially, not really something he thought would actually be good. But he started playing it, and he hasn't lost. And so I shipped it to Chris, and it sounds like you're not really losing with it either. So
No, I'm not.
the deck is quite good, even though it looks like garbage. It really does, but it's just very well positioned, I think. And pending a little bit more time, I think I can start sharing the list with people. I really have no issues sharing it to the masses, but
Yeah.
Deluxekoff he's a very principled brewer, and this one is certainly more his than mine, so I'd feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think...
Let me know when I can do a video with it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure thing. I think Deluxe is probably going to keep it secret at least until after the premiere events this weekend.
That's my thinking too. So I can usually get him to share a list if I want to, but I think that with these premiere events coming, this is the optimal time to really have a secret list and bring it to a tournament. So I think it'd be cool if you could place with it.
Yeah, so definitely...
he used to sell his lists before dailies when there were only premiere events.
Huh.
In
I
the
did
old
not.
days.
This is one I would buy. So if someone has the opportunity to purchase this list from him, you might want.
Yeah. Offer him
Yeah.
5 tickets and you might get it.
I don't know about that. I think he probably wants to catch people off guard with it in the premiere event, possibly. So, yeah, that list is really sweet. He's right. I've been playing that too. That variation of Stompy, and it's really solid. It doesn't feel like it should win. If you look at it on paper, you're like, this deck looks really bad, but and then it just wins. And
Sounds great.
yeah, it's really weird. So Dan, what have you been playing?
I haven't been playing much. I've been doing like the 24 decks of Christmas thing on YouTube and finance stuff. So I've been playing 2 modern 8-mans, but I didn't do very well in those.
Yeah, for your series. Right. Okay. So the other thing I've been playing, obviously, for my periodical this week, I did Goblins, which is really popular, and people love Goblins. So,
Yeah, the Mog Raider, Mog Fanatic did an interesting financial thing
oh yeah,
this week.
I say they crashed, and on Saturday I bought 20 plus of each, and now they're back up to 50, 60 cents. So,
Yep, they gained over 100% in 2 days.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. I was very happy that they did that, considering how
Which
deep
day did you buy?
Saturday.
Yeah, like I said, it was the bottom. It was like, yes, nailed it.
I think they actually, like, late on Saturday is when they hit their low of, like, 13 cents, but I bought them on, like, Saturday.
Yeah, one of them was 13 at some point, but I got them for 18, like, most of them.
I bought them from MTG Traders, bought, like, 27 copies of one and, like, 17 copies of the other, and I got the message saying that, from whenever I did the MTGO Traders trade thing, they're like, hey, you can only buy 4 a day now. I'm like, oh, darn. I forgot. Well, I didn't know that was a rule from traders, but I
it's
guess it
just when you buy from their store
is.
with the credit. But if you get bot credit and then you buy from the bots, there's no such rule.
All right, hang on a second, guys. Yep, sorry about that. I had to let the dogs out. So we're talking about MTGO Traders. And it's only when you buy from their site that they have the 4 limit.
I'm not sure about what the actual rule is. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it on cast.
Okay.
But I bought plenty more than 4 from them in this case.
All right. So yeah, that was pretty sweet. I do like this version of Goblins for sure, and I've taken it to a couple of 8-mans and 2-mans and stuff, and it's been really solid for me overall. So, I mean, I think we about covered the finance for the week. Nothing really special is happening. The flashback draft for this week is Rise of the Eldrazi, and I don't think there's any really good financial targets there, Dan.
You can get your shape kiln fiends, but that's like not very impressive.
Okay, well,
so the big thing is next week with Mercadia Masks.
Yeah, next week is huge for Pauper.
Yeah.
All right, so that about covers finance, and it brings us to our main topic. We already talked about it a little bit, but Pauper Daily Events aren't coming back, guys. It's premier events only on the weekends, and we have 4 events. 2 of them are 7:30 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday and Sunday. Then we have one that's I think 11 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. on Saturday night. I have to look at the actual schedules now because I'm like totally unprepared.
So 4 of them total, or
yeah, and then we have one on like Friday at 11 p.m. Pacific time. So that one's for the Europeans. So yeah.
So once again, the red-headed stepchild is taken out back and beaten up.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they treat their second biggest format. They definitely don't want it to be the second biggest format.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to say about that fact right there. Hey, here we go. Events calendar page. I have to find these like actual times now 'cause it's bugging me.
And they will be the same every week, so it's good to learn them.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
the other announcement.
Yeah, that daily events are happening at the same time every day, and a couple of people have already spoken up their mind about this too, myself included. That their rotating schedule was actually very good for a lot of people, right? I can't play daily events at 6 p.m. However, if you give me till 7 p.m., I can usually finish dinner, right, with my family, because that's what I do on um, on these days. And I think it's really interesting that Wizards chose their largest format, standard, and the daily events for standard on each day are 6 p.m. Now, Wizards is based on the West Coast, so do they just not eat dinner at that time?
I don't know. It's
Go ahead.
a weird thing. It's just it's weird that they would go with this type of thing. And I think I saw a tweet by Turian that he was just like, this is just something we want to try. Like, it actually seems to me like this is a legitimate test on that one to see how well that works. So I do expect that to change myself, because I just think it's very good for the people it works for and very bad for the people it doesn't. And it's very isolating in that regard. So I imagine that they'll change it, because I gotta think that that's going to be bad for attendance too. I mean, if you're going to get the grinders who can do it every single day, but there's going to be some people who, they're like, for me, a daily event wasn't a daily thing when they were actually firing. It was like I could do like 5 or 6 a week, so it was like kind of a mini celebration every time I could. But if I could do them every single day at exactly the same time, I mean, I'd start missing a few. Wouldn't really care as much. They really would be like daily grinds, and eventually I think they'll see like a decrease in attendance because of just the fact I don't think people will play it as much if they have it as like totally accessible all the time, and the other people who can't play it at all, well, they're not going to be able to play it. So
Yeah.
that's my guess.
So that's sort of where I fall in here is I can't play a lot of these events, right? And I was about to get into Theros Block Constructed, right? I'd like just finished my deck. I literally just got the last cards for it, and now the Theros Block Constructed events are at 2 p.m. or 4 a.m.
Congratulations.
So I was like, oh, that's sweet. I can never actually play them because I have a job. So
Magic Online is a smashing success, right? Magic is bigger than ever. Magic Online is bigger than ever. So who does this? Who takes their entire customer base and just change everything as a test? What kind of policy is that?
I don't know. I think this is actually just a feeler test. I mean, they've gone for 2-3 weeks now without daily events at all. So I don't think this is going to hurt them if nobody attends their daily events. But
making it impossible for some people to play the dailies, it's
ridiculous. I agree.
It must just be bad. Some percentage of people can't play and will quit Magic.
Yeah.
You're basically forcing them to.
Yeah, I guess for some people this is effectively removal of their daily events.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is pretty ridiculous.
So it feels like the rotating schedule must be so much better. Because if people have the hope, if people can play 1 or 2 dailies a week, I think a lot of people are doing that. And think, okay, I'm playing Magic because I'm going to get good and playing dailies. Okay, I have time for 2 dailies a week. Nice. But if it always happens when you're at work, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I have to choose certain formats that I'm gonna play. If they were to keep this schedule, then my choice for formats is going to be Modern, basically.
Let's hope they don't change it.
Yeah, I don't want to spend.
Once you put the $600 into a Modern deck.
Yeah, I'd have to dump about $600 to get a Jund deck or something for Modern.
The Jund is over 1,000.
Okay, well, I'd have to dump about $600 more to get there.
Well, maybe that's their reasoning for this. They just assume that we're all addicted and that we'll conform to the schedule that they provide.
Yeah, they may be right. They have done stupid things in the past and people are still sticking around.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So how about that Hearthstone and
There's
Hex
some
and
more to this announcement too
Soulforge?
that we.
There's
Oh yeah.
a bit more. Yeah, Hearthstone, Hex, and Soulforge, right? Those are the ones that I'm looking at now.
It's looking like a real option. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm just so sick of other card games trying to fight with Magic. This has been going on for 20 years and they just die, all of them. Every time I try one, it dies. So I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, we'll wait to see what picks up in popularity, what's going to stick around, I think.
None ever did, pretty much.
Yeah, well, I mean, these ones all have a much bigger backing, I think, so hopefully...
Actually, no. During the first collectible card game wave, there were giants entering the arena. Like Star Trek had a lot of money behind it, and TSR at the time with Spelljammer, and there were big card games. The Legend of the Five Rings, and where are they today?
I don't know. Obviously. Okay, so...
Anyway, sorry for interrupting you all the time and getting excited about the subject. I play weekdays during work hours. Congratulations to me.
Yeah.
I better find a new format.
Okay.
Sorry, what just happened there?
I don't know. Do we lose him?
No.
No, I'm here.
Oh.
Okay, it's like it seemed like you both suddenly just cut off there. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So the other part of this announcement is, Pauper Daily Events aren't coming back, but in its place we're getting Premier Events.
Yes.
Only on weekends.
Only on weekends, but there's more to it than that I want to talk about, which is the player requirement of the Premier Events. This one is just like the dagger, into my opinion.
Yes.
So they're moving the minimum from 33 to not 64 like you guys mentioned, Pauper, but 65 in Pauper the People, I mean. So like they've pretty much doubled the amount of players you need in order to get into the Premier Events, and then they've capped them at 128. So like the issue with why this is actually like a big deal is like twofold. First, Pauper was like a very strong format. We're one of the biggest ones that existed, but now we're being pigeonholed into these Premier Events. They cost 10 tickets to enter instead of 6. Cost 10 tickets to enter is my understanding, at least. They might be cheaper. Maybe I'm wrong, but regardless, I think they cost 10. And Premier Events offered. Well, I mean, I'll get to that point in a second. But the thing is that Pauper is weak, and so we have to now get 65 people into this format in order just to get them to fire. So we have to get double the amount into these events when our format is like probably at the weakest it's been in years, I would say, because we haven't had daily events. 8-mans fire like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times an hour, it seems like. And we have to do this all at the same time as there's other more lucrative options available for people. Like everyone else has daily events where you can make good amounts of money, but we don't. So if I'm a grinder and I like playing Pauper, but I have to decide between Standard and Pauper, I'm going to pick Standard all the time. So
are there daily events during the weekends as well for Standard and Modern?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So it's just like it's going to be a challenge to get it up to 65, just on its face, because we're so weak and there's other good options available. When you take in the fact that Premier Events are horrible expected value, there's like no reason.
Not if you have 65 people, but for every person after 65, it drops significantly, and at 128, it's horrible.
I heard that at 40-ish is where the EV is good, and then as it gets past 40, it starts decreasing, and so they fixed it permanently at negative expected value for everyone.
Yeah, I was comparing it to the 8-mans.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. I guess I was comparing it to dailies. So it's like they fixed, like, if you hopped in the Premier event at 33 people, you have a pretty good shot at making some money. Like your expected value is positive, but they've fixed it negative at 65 with having 65 people in it, so that because the prize structure doesn't scale with participation level at all, so it's now permanently poor expected value. So they now, like, one of the few things that might lure someone into a premier event, they've taken away. And the worst part of all is there's still the famous premier event issue. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but I mean Michael Jacobs talks about it a lot, which is that if you 7-0 the Swiss portion, 7-0, you almost 4-0 a daily twice in a row. Almost do that. And then you lose the first round of the top 8, and you actually make less money than if you 4-0 a daily.
Yes, you make 9 boosters, right, if you're in the top 8.
How ridiculous is that? Yep. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
It is. It's pretty insane. Actually, I meant to retweet that earlier.
It's a basic mechanism of poker tournaments that the poker sites provide a guaranteed pot in tournaments so that they become profitable if the minimum sign up. So it's like, and the poker sites know what they're doing. They've studied human psychology and behaviors. So if you offer the premier event at 33 players, then 33 players will get there, but there will be more than that often. So you get, by offering this window of positive EV in a tournament, you will often fill the tournament because everybody wants this positive EV. And now Wizards decided not to listen to that and draw their own conclusions.
Yeah. So obviously Magic and poker are different in that aspect, but
I'm not sure it's different in that aspect, because people want to play, they want to have positive EV. The people playing in the premier events, many of them are grinders, etc. I think a lot of the same mechanisms play in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to, the grinders are going to be the ones who play the premier events, and nobody else really is going to want to hop in there, right? Because the other big problem with premier events is the barrier to entry. 10 tickets is a significant amount more to throw away than 6, right?
But if you're playing the premier events as a grinder and the premier event fills, you have to have a win rate through the roof to actually make a profit in the long run.
Yeah, the only reason
if it's impossible to make a profit on the 8-mans, it's definitely impossible to make a profit on the premier events in the long run if they fill.
The only reason to play premier events, in my opinion, is prestige.
Yes.
I just don't see any reason to do it other than that. Your time is so much better invested doing any other daily event if you are able to. So if you're a grinder, I don't think grinders really enjoy premier events. Is the impression I
think
get.
they will. They will probably be there for prestige if they feel that they need prestige, but they won't be there for the grind.
Fortunately, Pauper's grinders, I feel like, do care about prestige a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's all that we really have with Pauper, right? That's prestige. We can win a million daily events, but that doesn't really matter because we still only get the X money for the 11 packs. But but I mean, heck, how many times has it been mentioned now for E-Hustle that he was the last guy to win a premier event? I don't even know it. I don't even know anybody else who's won a premier event in Pauper.
Making smart plays.
I've never. Okay, that makes 2 people I know of that have ever won a Pauper premier event. So
I bet the Lux did as well.
Yeah, I don't know how many there were.
There were plenty.
That was kind of a weird period of time, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, it has to be about the prestige, and I imagine that the first premier events that's actually on a reasonable hour for the U.S. folks is going to fill up, go straight up to 128 people.
I definitely think that the first few premier events are going to be huge, in my opinion, but I am fearful that they will rapidly decrease in size as people start to figure out how terrible of an investment they are, how long and daunting they are, and just that they really just aren't worth it anymore at all. And then I'm very fearful that they'll stop firing eventually.
Yeah, and then they can cut Pauper and say, "Oh well, nobody was interested."
Yeah, I don't think that's really going to be a thing. I think that we're still going to fire 8-mans, right? Because that's basically what we're still going to have. I'm still going to play in 8-mans, even though they're horrible value. But they're what I have. So that's probably what I'm going to play. I don't know whether I'm even going to play a Premier event this weekend. The deck that I want to play, I can't play until after Mercadian Masks' draft. So, but
Delver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delver's just going to be far more the most consistent deck that you can take into the daily event. It's going to have the most answers to what other people are bringing, because I really expect a lot of longtime grinders like Ministered by Angels and stuff to play his Familiar Storm deck, and so I want to have answers to those combo decks that our Stompy list won't have. So that's what I want to play in the Premier event, but well, we'll see.
It is interesting that we got everything we asked for. We got Premier events, we got 8-mans, but
yeah, we neglected to ask to also retain the status quo.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we got Temporal Fissure banned. Everything would have been so good.
Like, I didn't even think that was an option that they would take away the daily events, right? I just figured that was like one of those things that was just locked in stone. It's good for everyone to have Pauper Daily Events, right? It's your I mentioned this on Pauper with people. It's your gateway drug to have these Pauper Daily Events.
I've given this a lot of thought from an economic point of view, and I think this convinced me that they actually want to reduce Pauper, because Pauper doesn't get them money in the short run. Pauper it may get them money in the long run, being a gateway drug. But in the short run, it's taking people away from standard and modern. They don't need to open packs. They only benefit the secondary market. And I think they effectively dislike Pauper at this point, and want to promote standard and modern much more.
Yeah, that could. I mean, I'm starting to come to the same conclusion too. And I mean, I think. So you want to start talking about what Brian Kibler said to you guys the other day? Now's probably the time. I mean, I think that he hit it right on the head when he said that it's not in WotC's interest to focus on events that make them. That doesn't make them money, and Pauper is one of the ones that doesn't make them money. So
yes.
I mean, that's just
I think it's easy. We love Pauper so much, and we are so fanatic about our format, but it's just a format to them, and it's a format that doesn't make them money. And I've heard people argue that Pauper makes them money, but I can only see this gateway drug effect, and maybe it's not enough for them.
Well, I would say
they don't need it in paper.
I think that's actually like their biggest downside, sort of, is they don't need it in paper. They don't support it in paper. I think if they did support it in paper, then it would just blow up, right? And I think it would actually probably take over standard, because of price of entry to standard is just ridiculous.
Yeah, but look at this. If it was a paper-supported thing, would game stores like it? Don't they want to sell the mythics and the rares?
I think game stores would like it, initially at least.
Initially they would, but in the long run, a budget format isn't good for the stores either. A budget format is good for the players.
I'm not sure,
because it's a budget format.
What about like a format like Commander, right?
Yeah.
So
great moneymaker.
Yeah, Commander's a great moneymaker, but it's totally 100% casual, and the cards that people want for Commander are already in existence. I don't think they're really making the money from the stores are really making the money from these cards that are already in existence, unless they just happen.
But they print the Commander sets every year.
Yeah. So that would bring me to my next point: is why couldn't we have like a Pauper set every year? that they could reprint. They could reprint the staples of Pauper, like days and these things that are really really hard to obtain. Otherwise, because if they made Pauper a paper sanctioned format, I can imagine that there would be about 6 people in the U.S. who would be able to complete a Delver deck because of availability of cards. I mean, these are all ancient cards, and they're not in really high demand right now because Pauper's not a sanctioned format. But if it would be a sanction, then it could be a very difficult to acquire cards format.
I haven't even looked, but I think I have a complete Delver deck in paper 2 meters from me right now in my old Mercadia Masks card box.
But yeah, I mean, I have openly advocated for them to do Pauper specific sets. I mean, I still do. I think that that's exactly the way that you could make Pauper very profitable for them.
But who would be? You know how Wizards look at their customers. The customers are Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. Timmy is happy with Commander stuff. Spike is happy with Modern and Standard, and Johnny is happy with some weird cards they print every now and then. So why would they need Pauper? They already have a problem with 2 different formats at the very top.
Why would they need it? I don't know if they'd need it, but it's supplementary income at very minimal expense to them.
I don't think it's supplementary. I think it's parasitic, that it will take money away from Modern and Standard, and that's why they're doing this now. Because, like Brian Kibler said, it's in their interest to focus on events that make them money. And if they run events that don't make them money, they lose a chance to run an event that make them money. So from Wizards' point of view, it's Modern, Standard, good, Pauper, bad.
That's what Brian basically said last night, right? Which was,
I think he's
right. Pauper is actually bad for him because he doesn't play it, and so for every Pauper tournament they run is one standard tournament or a fraction of a standard tournament they're not running.
But I have a counterpoint to that. There are some people who are on budgets, right? And I fall into that category, right? I'm a single. Well, I'm not a single dad. I'm the only income in my family, and I have 3 kids who I'm trying to support, along with a multitude of animals and a house to maintain and everything. So I have a budget. I can't spend $400 or $500 on a standard deck every time rotation happens. Now I understand that hey, Wizards wants more money from me, but that's just not realistically in my budget to do that. So what I did initially when I decided to invest in MTGO was I put about $100 down, right? And I played standard for a little bit, and I eventually went broke because it just wasn't that good. And so I put another $100 down into MTGO, and I played another few daily events of standard, and I was like, you know what, I can't win in standard. So that's when I looked into and found out about Pauper, and that I sold all my standard cards and went over to Pauper, and I've been playing Pauper ever since. So the fact that I'm still playing and advocating Magic Online via Pauper, because it was my entry into getting to play, learn, and love this game, was Pauper. So it did make the money, and it made the money in the short term. That I put $200 down right there, straight from my wallet, $200 from plus tax, and I play Pauper now. I play Pauper exclusively, and I know there's a lot of people who play just Pauper, and I can't imagine that I'm the only person in this situation where I was on a budget, and if I wanted to play competitively, then this is what I needed to play. Otherwise, I was stuck playing Red Deck Wins in Standard for the entirety of its existence, because that's the only deck that you can actually complete for $200.
When Pauper was sanctioned in 2009, right?
I have no idea.
Was it later? Anyway,
another year.
There was your experience before Pauper was sanctioned. There was people having your experience in some other way, and they might want to get back to that. So people maybe start to play casually. There weren't much player-run events, but people somehow make the transition.
There were player-run events. There were a lot of player run events.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like Angel. Actually, there were in 2002 as well. But they've never been. Look at the amount of people playing player run events now compared to the amount of people on Magic Online. It's less than 0.1%.
Yeah.
So there is a sort of natural progression that has happened. Like people start playing casually, draft a little, somehow get into standard or whatever was modern at the time, and they might want to get back to that. Think that the problem might be the Pauper. Actually, people stick with Pauper, and sometimes it doesn't work as a gateway drug because people are happy sitting there playing Pauper.
Like me.
Yeah. I was attracted to Pauper because I think the same reason that David did, that you could build every deck. That you could like try out all these decks and all these funky cards, and you didn't have to spend like $10,000 to try a lot of different decks.
That's exactly, yeah. I like that. I like the fact everything's eternal, like rotation. Like there have been so many times when I'm almost like done with the standard deck I'm building. I look at the calendar, and half the cards I want to use are gone, or another set comes out that will eventually mitigate the entire strategy I've been working on.
Yeah.
You know, so it's I enjoy the eternal aspect of it too. But yeah, I mean, the number one thing is that it's very easy for me to brew because it's cheap and affordable to do so.
You know, if
I mean, that's why it's called Pauper.
Yeah, that is 100% true. It's, you know, you wanted to. When you showed me the Stompy list, David, I was pretty upset that I had to buy $1.60 worth of cards to finish it. I was like, oh man, that's how I know I'm spoiled. But yeah, to finish this deck and to do what you wanted, you know, to do what your deck wanted me to do, I had to spend $2 to get there, and you know, no other deck could do that. If I wanted to do something similar in standard, I would have to buy, you know, a playset of Elspeth, and that would cost me $42. Vice the $2 that it cost me to do that.
Yeah. So, do we want to talk about some of these other things that are going on around? So, like your email to.
Yeah, my email was. I sent out a pretty detailed and this was off of the actual article itself. At the bottom, there's a respond by email link at the bottom of every article. I actually didn't know whether that worked at all. So, but apparently it did, because I woke up the next morning and my inbox had this in it. Where did I put it? Okay, so in my email I go over what he says in his article, and you know, I make the points that hey, Pauper was really popular, and we're only getting 4 premier events. We can't survive on premier events, and I go over a couple other points that I saw with scheduling influence, and he did actually respond to me, and his response was this: "Hi Chris, thanks for taking the time to write. I agree that there's a balance between flexible rotating schedule and consistent schedule that may leave players unable to play certain formats. We tried our best to spread out the formats so that they best gave players an opportunity to play. Many others share your feedback about the removal of the daily Pauper events. Thanks for taking the time to write. Mike Turian." So, what this says to me really, that's they do read feedback and responses, and I know that when Alex Ullman sent off his open letter, which is also linked in the show notes, that Mike Turian personally responded to that to Ullman saying, "Thanks for taking the time to write," and the feedback from everybody was basically like, hey, this is a sort of like a generic response from him that he can't say anything. And so, yeah, there's that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that I don't think it's necessarily bad that he has generic responses. I mean, I'm sure he gets thousands of emails a day, and if he gives Alex Ullman a very detailed one and Alex publishes it, like, everyone else is going to expect the same level, or else they'll be, you know, they'll think it's unfair or whatever. But, I mean, Alex is in a unique situation. He is our community liaison. And so it would have been nice to have a long, lengthy discussion between those two. I think it actually really is bizarre to me that Wizards does not use him in any capacity. He's like, we effectively have like a free person on staff who can provide consulting advice to Wizards about how they should handle Pauper. Like, some way to do it. And they obviously, this premiere event they're giving us something. It's not like they're just saying we're erasing Pauper from this. They're giving us something. Why couldn't they have talked to us to figure out what that something could be? Like, I would rather have 4 daily events a week than 4 premiere events a week, or 2 daily events a week than 4 premiere events a week. It's just, why couldn't they talk with him? He's like a free consultant who clearly has plenty of time to talk to them. Like, he wrote those multiple letters on Facebook about Pauper's plight. He's on Twitter actively. It's just like, blows my mind that WotC doesn't take advantage of the fact that they have this liaison.
Yeah.
The best they can do is send him an email with a templated response.
I say, and furthermore, he's like he writes for Star City Games, right? Which is basically outside of Wizards, they're the second biggest Magic resource. Star City Games is. I mean, heck, they have their own freaking, SCG Opens and Invitationals, and they practically have their own Pro Tour. So yeah, they're pretty important, and he writes for them. So he is like the Pauper guy for Star City Games. So yeah, they should use the liaisons. I'm not really sure why they're not, or why they're not using that resource that they have available to them.
It blows my mind. It's just like, it's free. It's free. Why not, and would require no time.
Yeah,
just to get community feedback on something. Like, we're thinking about doing this. How would people react? Instead of, let's do X and see how upset we can get everyone.
Yeah, and it riles everybody up too. And if you were paying attention to Twitter at all yesterday, it just blew up with feedback and comments, and that's sort of what I'm trying to get to back here is if you write them in via the respond by email at the bottom of his page, or via Twitter or whatever, do that, right? If you listen to this podcast, give them feedback about how you want daily events back, and the more feedback we send them, the more likely they are to actually give it to us, I think.
I want to believe that's true too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the best we can do. If it could be the case that there's nothing we could possibly do that will get them back.
That could be the case, but if we rally the troops and we stomp our feet enough, then I think we'll eventually get it.
It's absolutely worth a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, can I talk about the article we're going to publish today?
Sure.
Yes.
So, I've been taking some time to sort of formulate my issues with WotC, and I got this approved by Dan, and I think Will, are the owners of the site. So I think the plan is to post an article today detailing kind of our complaints with the way WotC's treated the Pauper community, detail the trends we're seeing. I'm not posting any potential solutions, because sort of the goal of this article is to help start the community thinking about ways to improve the situation in the comments below, and then I'm going to take all of people's feedback and integrate them into an email that we're going to ship on behalf of mtgostrat.com to Wizards, because I think it's very important to illustrate that this isn't just impacting individuals, it's impacting a community, and I want to have a big input all in one email that's well crafted. I want to have it all sent in to Wizards so that they can see, it's impacting websites specific, websites all around, content producers, the people who read our content. It's not just about I can't play this tournament anymore. It's, I lost a community. And so when that article goes up, I ask you all to go and read it, see what you think, post in the comments below, and I'll use those comments to help formulate the MTGO Strat email. So,
Very good.
Sounds pretty awesome. Alrighty, I think we've about covered all the bases. You guys think so?
The interesting thing is what happens now. If nothing change, will there be a slow decline, or will Pauper survive in its current state?
You know, it's hard to speculate on that. We have a couple of people who are still trying to make sure that we play in. I know Jay Siri sent some feedback out on Twitter about continuing his player run event series with a more reasonable to his bankroll payout of the series. But so there's some interest in continuing up player run events if the premier events don't fire, and of course we do still have the premier events to keep Pauper relatively active. I don't know how long those are going to last, but we'll see. So it's really hard to speculate on what will happen and how the community will respond to the lack of daily events and having only premier events and 8-mans to fire.
It would be interesting to talk to someone who was around when Pauper was sanctioned, because were there dailies from the beginning or not? Or was it just premier events?
It was just premier events. While I wasn't like very active in Pauper back then, because I was still just sort of like very noobish player as far as Magic Online went. Pauper was like player run events specifically. In fact, the player run community back then, maybe it was smaller, but it was like very dynamic. PDC.com was like an insane resource. I still wish it was as good as it was today. Or back then, it was unbelievable how well that website was maintained. It was player-run events, and then they gave us premier events first. There were no daily events, but
once a week or something like that, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I played in a few of them because that's all we had, and so I think sort of the general sentiment at that time was, at least we have something, like we had nothing and we forced Wizards to give us something, which is sweet. That's like, coming from that perspective, moving from nothing to premier events is like awesome. It's a step in the right direction. It's great. But moving from having, the cream of the crop to having nothing or just 8-mans and then having premier events is really a step in the wrong direction, which is why this is so scary and problematic.
Yeah, it's really hard to go from such a vibrant, metagame, and I brought this up in Pauper the People too, where premier events don't really allow for brewing, so you have to play really consistent decks there. Whereas daily events, you can take your brews into, and you don't, you have a chance with them, right? It may be only a chance out of 3-1, and it may be a chance only if you don't run into Delver, but you can't do that with premier events, and that's sort of scary for us. Is that this sort of like this Brewers format, you can't really brew in premier events.
Yeah, we sort of have like the polar opposites, where we have 8-mans, which are like too brewer friendly, and then we have premier events, which are like not brewer friendly at all. There's no middle ground. There's no, like, because when a weird brew does well in an 8-man, I just write it off. I don't even consider it, because it's just like, well, anyone can do that with pretty much any deck. It's not impressive to me if you get published with some random deck because you won one match. Like, any deck can win a match. But on the other end of the spectrum, premier events, at least the way I've seen them lately, only post top 8s. They used to post a long time ago, like, I don't know, tons of results.
Like top 32, right? I think
That sounds
Yeah,
about right.
in that event that eHustle won, I got 32nd, and my deck was published.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah. They used to show a ton of them. But now we're going to be reduced to the top 8, which is going to be Delver, Mono Black, Tron, and Affinity. Like, it's just what it's going to be.
Why? Why not show 32 decks?
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea. So, like, I now know what every Premier event's going to say. And if what deck does make it in there, that's pretty cool, I guess. That's pretty strong evidence that deck's better than you think, because it's got to be pretty consistent. I mean, in order to top 8, you have to do what, like 6-1 probably?
6-1. I think some 5-2s would make it too. I think a handful of 5-2, maybe 1 or 2 5-2s might make it. I'm not sure on the pairings there, on how that works. But,
okay, well, some very consistent decks have to.
Yeah, you have to be able to. I mean, it's the same type of deck that you would expect to be able to reasonably take to sequential 3-1s or 4-0s on a daily. So,
yeah,
consistent, strong decks are what you're looking at.
Yeah, I don't even know if I think Tron is consistently strong enough to top 8 really on a regular basis. I'm sure they will, because people seem to love playing that deck. But
yeah, people like playing big mana, so
Yeah, it's fun.
it is fun. It's a ton of fun to slam down three Umlaug's Crushers.
But I wouldn't advocate that deck, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like it has some consistency issues. And this is the type of tournament where consistency issues are the death knell. Like, you have enough difficulty beating your opponents, you don't have any room to lose to your own deck.
Yeah, I think that's why I would play Delver if obviously if I had Dazes, but I think the next deck that I'm looking at taking is either Mono Black Control or the Stompy list, just for consistency reasons.
Yeah.
I need to tweak and work on the Stompy list a little bit better, because like I said, I don't like the mana in that one, but we'll work on that over the next few days, David. And I think I'm actually pretty excited to go to a Premier event. I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited to attend a Premier event, even if it is a 7-hour expedition with horrible value. I want to do one.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the general sentiment of the Pauper community right now. Like, I've heard some anger, I've heard some frustration, but I think a lot of people are just like, ooh, let's wait and see. But I've seen this, and this is a big step backwards. And I actually wish people were more upset about this than it seems like they are, because it's very disappointing to me. Like, and I can understand why people who've never experienced a Premier event are like, they're like, I'll wait and see how this is before I care. But
people are upset about it. They're very upset about it. I had, and this is a shout out again to the guys who were on Pauper the People with me on Monday. It was Samuel Calkin from Pauper Revolution and Joshua Clater. Both came on and voiced their opinions, and the opinions were generally negative. It's, we don't like that that daily events are gone, right? It was our thing. It was our bread and butter. It was what we did.
Well, I guess I should say my opinion. I feel like we're not being loud enough as a community, to some extent. Like, when they took down daily events, there were so many grinders that got called out by pros for acting like idiots, or so many interactions I saw about people losing their jobs in Brazil. Just everything was loud and riled up, and it forced Wizards to look at the issue, and to think about it. And I'm sure it pissed them off, and they were like, what? Why are people being so mean to us? This is ridiculous. But when you get someone mad, they think about something. It stays stuck in their head. They are forced to consider it. But, I guess what I'm just trying to say is I really think the Pauper community needs to be as loud as they possibly can. Grinders was a big community. That's a lot of people spanning multiple formats. We're now just down to one format. Wizards keeps chopping down the amount of people they're upsetting over and over again, and now it's down to however big Pauper is, 1,000, 2,000 people, 3,000 people who play Pauper. I have no idea, but we have
a lot more than that, I think.
Well, we have to act like we're 10,000 strong, and make a lot of noise, in my opinion. And so I definitely think people should be emailing. I don't really care what they say, but as long as we don't get just put on the back burner, that's a big concern I have, is that people aren't just being loud enough, because we're not loud enough, nothing will change. And we're
show Wizards that their customers are not happy.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get the reaction.
Oh man, that's the problem with addicts. We're gonna keep playing regardless, right? And we have to be perfectly honest with ourselves here. I'm gonna keep playing.
Yeah.
I actually,
I'm not happy.
I don't know if I will. Like this to me is just like just blatant disrespect. Like I can't imagine going into a company and being like, yeah, I'd like to buy this product, and they're like, nope, get out of here. You know, that's sort of how this feels. It's just like yes, the product
they've done it to me so many times over the years that I'm used to it. I'm addicted to Magic. I will come back.
Yeah.
If Pauper isn't around, I'll play some other format.
This one to me though is like it strikes at another level. You know, it's like a slap in the face where the only way I could like feel comfortable is like to boycott it. You know, because it's just like, and obviously I want to give them ample time to change this, because some people say, you know, they didn't give it enough time, they didn't think about it, they weren't aware of this, it could be a system issue, and they, you know, they will bring back dailies, but they want to like integrate them slowly. I mean, all those are like very, you know, I don't agree with them, but I can understand they're like a reasonable approach from their standpoint. But if this really is like an attack on Pauper, I just will not stand for that. It's just like, this is the one format I actually care about. The rest are like, I enjoy limited, but I could live without it.
Yeah, I usually do. I mean, 10 to 20, sometimes more depending on the format, but 10 to 20 drafts of a new format. And you know, after that though, I'm kind of like, well, I'm done. You know, some formats I like a lot more than others, like M14, but you know, for the most part, it's sort of like, well, you know, this is what I play consistently. It's this format.
Imagine how many Pauper tournaments you would have to play to make Wizard as much money. 20 to 30 drafts.
Yeah. I don't know, that's... Yeah. Can't say too much more about that. I do... I'm going to keep playing, and I'm being perfectly honest with you guys. I don't like it. I really hate that I'm not going to have daily events, but my answer to that is, well, I'm addicted, and I can't really say much else about that.
It is actually quite encouraging that, to try to say something positive, that Pauper was healthy when there were only premier events at some point, because that means that the format will survive in some shape or form. And maybe the prestige of the premier event can drive the format.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's true.
You can of course, this might piss people off, but you can of course question if Wizards has any sort of obligation to provide positive EV. It's a game. Do you pay for it? You play World of Warcraft and you never get any money out of that. And I think Pauper as a format is strong enough to survive without anyone being able to go infinite on it.
Oh, it certainly will survive. My concern is that the competitive Pauper will depreciate over time. Like when I am writing, I'm not writing. I'm writing to try to make the tournament practice room player into the designer who makes the next successful daily event deck, you know, or the next successful premier event deck. Like that's what I'm writing to do. But if like the competitive scene goes and we boil down into effectively just this cyclical effect where the best you can possibly do is like try to win an 8-man, well, that's not really the Pauper that I signed up for. You know, it's like a more casual level Pauper, which is totally fine for some people, and that's always going to exist no matter what. But the Pauper that I envision, the Pauper I know and love, that like got me from occasionally playing a Pestilence deck in a premier event a few years ago into actually writing weekly for MTGO Strat is in jeopardy of going away.
So what do you guys feel about the future of the cast? We are the competitive Paupercast.
Well, once again, I don't want to speculate, so I think we'll just have to see about what happens there.
Yeah.
We'll have a pretty big topic to talk about every week with the premier events and who won them. So that can go for a little bit, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I intend to continue on until I feel satisfied that WotC's stabilized in their position. Like, Alex Ullman seems to think that we'll have daily events by March. I'm not really sure why he thinks that, but
it seems oddly specific, doesn't it?
yeah. Yeah, but
he thought we would have the banning of Temporal Fissure in May. So.
if unless premier events are like wildly successful, and I actively want to play in them all the time, the latest I could see myself going till is March. I guess I could like try to stick it out till then, but daily events are extremely important for the work I do in all facets. Like, it's hard to explain how useful they are for designing, for everything else. So I guess I'd say I want to go with like a wait and see approach, but it's really, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go with that. I think March at the latest, if nothing changes, really is probably pretty likely.
All right, guys. Well, we need to close this out. So we'll just leave off with contact info. Dan, how we contact you?
Wait, before that,
Okay.
We are skipping a couple of Christmas and New Year shows, right? Which ones
we
are
are. We are. Man, let's see.
Next week is the last one, right?
Yeah, we'll be doing cast next week, and then we'll be skipping the Christmas and the New Year's Day podcast because they're Christmas and New Year's. Yep. So the next the next competitive Paupercast you'll hear from us will be January 8th.
Yep.
Wait, we're doing one next week, though, right?
We are doing that one next week.
So next week and then January. Okay.
And then
Next
skip
week.
2.
Yep. All right.
Okay,
Thanks.
to reach me, you can reach me on Facebook at Magic Gathering Strat, on YouTube at Magic Gathering Strat, and on mtgeostrat.com.
Sweet. David?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at SchaeferWaffle5. You can find me on MTGeostrat. I do the Thoughtcast series there. Or you can find me on Magic Online. I'm also SchaeferWaffle5 there.
All right. Sounds awesome. I'm Chris. You can contact me on Twitter at CWeaver8518 or on MTGO at CWeaver. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Competitive Paupercast, episode 17.
Bye, guys.